actual part.
That's pretty aggressive.
Not yet.
These
I
tables,
think our table's level.
they're not. That's not well constructed right there.
5, 4, 3. Good evening and welcome to the Defiance City Council meeting for tonight, September 3rd, 2024. This evening we have Pastor Dave Brobston from St. Paul Lutheran Church here in Defiance to open us up in prayer. And Guinness.
And Guinness, always Guinness.
Well, thanks for being our guest.
Thanks for inviting me. If you would, pray with me. Gracious God, as we paused yesterday to remember the labors of those who built this city, this state, and this nation, we give you thanks. We give you thanks for all of those who continue to labor in and around this place to benefit us all. Be with us, Almighty God, that we may know your peace and presence in the silliness of the seasons ahead of us, that we will be calm in the midst of chaos, and that we would truly trust in your path and in your way. Bless these men and women, bless these proceedings, and bless our city. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. This meeting is called to order. Let the record show that all the members of council are present this evening except for Mrs. Crutch, who could not make it this evening. Do we have a motion to excuse her? Motion, Mr. Aresti. Second, Mr. Corbett. All those in favor of excusing Ms. Crutch from this evening's proceedings, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, we'll catch her next time. Would you stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening is a good evening because we have as our special guest Kirsty Mack, Executive Director of Defiance Main Street and Visitors Bureau, here to update us on the Facade Enhancement Grant Program and funding for 2025.
Absolutely. Thank you all very much for having me. I really do appreciate it. Obviously, I can't come without goodies. So before I get into my quick presentation, in front of each of you, obviously a quick reminder that what event is coming up soon? Rib Fest. Oh, see, look at you. Yes, everybody's on the same page. So, Defiance Rib Fest is coming up. We are officially 25 days away, not that we are counting. So that is September 28th. It is a Saturday, and as it always is, the last Saturday in September. I like that the mayor is nodding his head like, yes, we know when this date is. Another great event, great fundraiser for our organization, great event for our community. So we're looking forward to that. Planning is still happening. We are still looking for some volunteer spaces, those kinds of things, but we're really starting to round out the last bit of planning. So we're pretty excited for that. Hope everybody will have a chance to make it. In addition to that, obviously you all have seen we've gone through some rebranding. So our new visitors guide, we've had those for a few months now, but I wanted to be sure you all had seen them in person. And then also some fun little gimmicky things. We have some chapstick there as well. We have a few other things that we have in the office as some of our fun little giveaways and those kinds of things. So now, going straight into the Facade Enhancement Grant Program. We are in our second year of that program. Obviously started last year with a pot of $50,000 last year. A little bit of a recap really quick. 2023, there were 6 total projects that were able to be a part of that program. We did use all $50,000, but the interesting part that I wanted to make sure to bring back to your attention is the total dollar amount in investment. So we had a lot of large projects last year, a lot of them that were a lot more than just the $20,000 project. So total investment in 2023 was $177,506.21. It's almost $178,000 of total investment in these projects. 2024, we had the $50,000 allotment from all of you from the City of Defiance budget. Then we also applied for a grant through the Defiance Area Foundation to be able to enhance and already start to grow this project just in year 2. We were awarded a $25,000 grant through the foundation to be able to add towards that program. So that gave us a pot of $75,000, and of that $75,000, we got to $74,900. So as last year we were right on. Again, I'm not really sure we could get much closer than what we did, other than hitting it right on the nose. So another great year of projects. This year there were 9 total projects, obviously totaling that $74,900 in grant funds. Total investment was $190,712.93. So again, large amount of return on these investments. They're not just looking at $20,000 projects. We did have, I'll give you the quick list of some of the projects, but keeping up these downtown buildings, it's not just, pocket change. It's taking some extra investment from these building owners, and that's what the whole goal of this program was to say, take investment in your building, make the improvements that need to be improved so that we don't end up losing some of these downtown buildings. So we had a roof project over at that combined building right over here at 625 and 621 5th Street. So that was a roof project. That roof needed done for probably 15 years. So it was a great project to be able to help him out and get that project done. At 200 Clinton Street, that project just wrapped up, and that was masonry work on the north-facing wall there of Dos Equis, that Dos Equis building there. Had no idea really how bad the building was until we all saw pictures, and then we're able to see the improvements. So if you drive by there and are stopped at the red light there, take a look up and see how nice that building looks. 502 Clinton Street, which is right over here, right before Red Eggs. There was a window replacement and gutter work. So that building, it has seen lots of improvement. Last year, they painted the facade without grant funding. This year, they have gotten some grant funding to do windows and gutters. So a lot of these buildings are seeing some improvement. Even without these facade dollars, you're starting to see other things happening as well. 523 West 2nd was another roof project. That was an extension of a roof project from last year. So that building extends from the 300 block. It's right there on the corner of Clinton and 2nd. So it's the Butler Realty, and then it extends about 2 buildings down. So it's a really, really large roof. So that was a huge project. 300 Clinton is window replacement. Obviously, we all know what's happening at 300 Clinton. So it was really great to see some new windows go in, continue projects, or projects are continuing on that building, which is really, really great. 218 Clinton Street is awning and facade work. So we are finishing up hearing when they're going to be able to start that project. So that is still on the to-do, but that is next to come. 419 5th Street is facade work and a door installation. So that would be the Block 6 building. You guys all aware of that location? Wonderful. 121 Clinton Street is a full painting of their facade. That project should be wrapping up here anytime. That was happening within the last couple of days. So you should start seeing that wrap up soon. And then 408 Clinton Street was again another full window replacement. I believe that was 17 windows that were replaced in that project. So again, a lot of extra investment are going into these projects. They're not just trying to match what they have to with their 50%. They're going above and beyond and making sure that these improvements are being done. Outside of these projects, we did not get any additional actual applications in, but a lot of conversation. The first question is there money available? If there's not money available, they're not going to go through and get the quotes and fill out the application, because those quotes are only good for 6 months. So, but they're starting conversations already, hoping for continuation of the grant project in 2025. I'd be happy to answer any questions from anybody on that project.
Do you foresee any outside funding for the next year at all?
For 2025, we have already submitted a grant again to Defiance Area Foundation for additional funding. Obviously, we will not hear about that until about mid-October, whether we had been awarded additional funding. as well. We're always open for conversations if there is, we have not had anybody else say we would like to donate funding to this program.
Is that funding through the foundation, that grant funding?
Yes.
That's specific, okay, so there's nothing statewide?
No, this is completely separate from the state CDBG grants.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely separate.
Question, Mr. Hancock?
Yes, with the projects, I understand some projects are higher value or
Yes.
higher cost than other costs.
Mhm.
Do you have an average at all? Is there an average available of the projects?
We're probably somewhere
And
between.
I'm thinking of total,
Sure.
not just our contribution, but as well as the
I'm
others.
thinking it probably is very close to on average. We're talking 16,000-ish on average projects, somewhere between 16 and 20 would be my guess. We've had very few projects come in that were under like a $5,000 ask, where the grant would then only give 2,500. Most of the projects that are coming in are 12, 15, 40, 60,000, depending on, the project.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Rusty?
Mayor McCann, is this a project, program that's gonna be, recommended?
I'm sure there will be money in the budget for facade work. What amount?
Based on the budget, how much,
I can't say it'll be 50.
that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, we're starting to discuss all that right now. To answer your question. So I'm sure there'll be a number in the budget. Obviously, the final arbiter of this is city council, so.
Well, I think the biggest one is where we are with the budget.
Right.
Because this is a good program, it's just a question whether it's $50,000 or it's less based on what our priorities are. And I think that's gonna be the good part about it. I mean, I'd hate to lose a program like this
Right.
that does a lot of good for the community. But I think we have to look at, what's in the best interest of our community, as a whole, I guess.
So, yes, it will be considered. We've talked privately and we've talked publicly about, do we wanna incentivize some sort of sign program moving forward? Is that to happen in 25, or do we wanna delay that thinking until some other time? Mrs. Sprague is beginning to work with some of the user groups, meeting with them and discussing with them individually what their needs are going to be. By user groups, I mean
Yeah.
DBA, football, blah, 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 blah. So we're working on all that, plus all the other needs. And Mr. Hancock, I just did some quick math here, and I don't know whether I'm doing this correctly. Makes me anxious. But if total expenditures in 23 were 177,506.21, and there were 6 projects, the average there was 29,584.
That's a lot of math I can't do in my head, so thank you.
Yeah,
for
I
that.
wouldn't have expected you to. And then in this year, in 24, that's a final number, Kirsty.
Yes, final numbers.
So it's 197.12 divided by 9 projects is 21,190. So, a couple of those, as you said, are roof projects, and roof work is expensive.
Correct.
All work is expensive. Windows are expensive.
Yes.
The work that we're making this money available, it's just expensive work. So, again, back to your question, Mr. Rusty, I believe there'll be a number in the budget. I can't tell you what that number is. It won't be any more than 50,000. And hopefully the foundation comes through with some help as well. And I think that covers our position for right now. You did an excellent job presenting this.
Thank you.
You hit all the bullet points, sitting there thinking, well, I wonder what projects we did, and then you start outlining them all out. So nice job.
Thank you.
And did you have a question, Mr. Engel?
Nope.
No, I thought you had your hand. Any other questions for Ms. Mack? Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for your consideration of continuing this project next year, and hopefully we'll see you at Rib Fest. And one more quick point, Witch's Brew tickets went on sale at 7 o'clock this morning. As of 6:35 p.m., they're sold out.
Oh.
So that's huge.
What tickets were on sale?
Witch's Brew tickets.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So
And what's the date on that,
I
Kirsty?
thought you did.
October
I think
10th.
you walked around with your black hat or?
yes, October 10th is the date for that. So if you just need some entertainment for the night, just maybe grab your Dora cup and go hang out on a bench and just people watch, because it's an absolute blast. That is one day that you just want to be around and keep your eyes open, because it's a blast. So Awesome, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
I reviewed the index minutes for our meeting of August 27th. Do we have a motion to amend or correct the index minutes as they're presented? If we don't, I will endorse them. Do we have any liaison meeting requests or reports? And do we have any comments from council this evening? Mr. Hancock.
There's been some discussion with some residents about right on red again, in regards to Jefferson and Downs. If the construction will continue or we're planning on closing, is it possible to temporarily while construction's occurring, allow right on red?
I don't think that would be a recommendation we would want to make or something we'd follow through on, Mr. Hancock. We've had that discussion, and the answer is people know they can't turn right on red. So if we temporarily allow it, then when we take it back off, are people gonna forget that we put it back on and continue to turn right on red? So the suggestion's been made to me as well on multiple occasions, and that's my answer.
And that's what we're doing, just asking.
Yep.
The other traffic issue that we've noticed or have been concerned is when you're northbound at Clinton and Second Street, you get through the light as a green and First Street turns red. Are they done with all the timing that you're aware of?
They are not. The timing is still not right. Mrs. Sprow's aware of it, our city engineer. Param Electric is aware of it as well. There's a couple little modules of some sort that we can't get, a little supply chain issue. And as soon as we have those and get that in, make the adjustments. I have asked Mrs. Sprow to see if we could lengthen that cycle just a little bit on the Second Street headed north and First Street to bring them more in line with one another, but she wasn't sure. Dave Prock does most of that signaling work, and he was gonna work on that.
Okay, and I had one other item, potholes on Cedar. Could we have somebody take a look at them? Cedar right across from the splash pad. I think it's Cedar, Scyther, Seither.
Scyther.
Close.
Cedar,
Yeah,
if you would,
Scyther Drive.
yep, please.
Just remind everybody, pothole@cityofdefiance.com. There's a link on our homepage that report those, and I think I can almost promise these days that within 48 hours, unless we're in the middle of a rainstorm, those potholes will be taken care of. I'd like to promise 24, but once in a while, there's something comes up.
Thank you, that's all for now.
That was all good.
Do we have any other comments from council? All right, on to the Board of Control, Mayor McCann.
I'll let Mr. Mack handle everything tonight, Mr. President, thank you.
Mr. Mack.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The only thing that I had, were to discuss some events, make you aware of for the month of September. Obviously, our DDVB director, Kirsty, hit on the Rib Fest, big event in town coming up, but a little bit earlier in the month, September 11th at 9 a.m. in front of the firehouse, police station. Our firefighters will be doing a 9/11 remembrance ceremony, so the public is invited, everybody's invited. I believe the mayor is going to speak. We also may have some, trying to get some state elected officials there, so good event. It was a good event last year. It'll be a good event this year. Please feel free to stop down. Again, that's 9 a.m. on September 11th. On September 25th, the Rascal unit will be back in town, so everybody who's normally volunteering for that, get ready. I think we're having it over at the 1918 building this year.
Don Miller Drive back behind.
So we've made that space available. A little bit of a change up because the space wasn't available to be used previously. So, but again, September 25th, Rascal unit will be back in town. More details to follow. And then the only other event I wanted to touch on was Rib Fest. So that's all I have.
Excellent.
I probably should add one thing to further the misery of our folks downtown. I'd requested Mr. Zedike have somebody take a look at the southbound lane, the curb lane downtown. The pavement's failing, and we're still a couple years away at least from resurfacing in downtown Defiance. So tentatively, we have dates of the 12th and the 13th of September to come in and mill that, basically where your right tire runs when you're heading south, and mill some of that out and patch it in. From 2nd Street south, hopefully down to Triangle Park, but we'll do what we can until the money runs out.
If it needs to get done, it needs to get done.
Pardon me?
If it needs to get done, it needs to get done.
That's good one. Yeah. Thanks for figuring that one out.
All good.
And now that's all I have, Mr. President.
That's all we have.
That's all we have.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Normally, I wouldn't say something like this because it will jinx the evening. But as of right now, I have no request for legislation for next week. So it's very likely, depending on how the votes go tonight, there will be no legislative agenda for the 10th. Now, it's up to you as Council President whether there's a meeting, but it's shaping up like there's no legislative agenda. We have a deadline for the internal staff Monday at noon for the following Tuesday. We're going to give them some slack because it's been Labor Day, but Tuesday came and went and we didn't get any either. So just letting everybody know that could happen. It's not because anybody did anything wrong. It's just we're at that time of the year where projects have gone off and gone off on schedule for the most part. And
We're trying to wrap stuff up, not start new stuff.
yeah, and she doesn't want to spend any new money. That's all I have.
And Ms. Sprague.
I just have two purchase orders. One's for building inspection 2024-01334. It was a release of escrow funds for a house fire, $32,258.50, and Parks and Rec 2024-01325. Mangus and Sons for yearly maintenance of flower beds, $25,000. It's just an open purchase order, so I don't know if he'll expend all that or not, but that's all I have.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
We do have 4 items of legislation for discussion this evening. Would you read the caption for the first?
Second reading by caption only, an ordinance renaming the right-of-way identified Geneva Boulevard as Thomas E. Keller Boulevard.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. President. And as we discussed last week, Keller Logistics Incorporated relocated its headquarters to what is now known as Geneva Boulevard. And that spurned the request from the family of the late Thomas E. Keller, founder of what's today Keller Logistics, to change the name to Thomas E. Keller Boulevard. Now, 723.04, the Ohio Revised Code gives you that authority. And we discussed that there are plans in the works. City engineer Sproul is in discussion with some of the adjacent landowners to extend that drive, that public right-of-way to the west. This bill, we drafted that so it would cover any extensions to the west on what's currently Geneva Boulevard. It would become Thomas E. Keller. And that's it.
Do we have any questions for Mr. O'Donnell? Mr. Rusty.
I feel this is a good request, and if there's no other questions, motion to suspend and call.
It's adopted, it's all we gotta do, isn't it?
No. That's only the second reading.
Oh, okay.
Mr. West, yeah.
But if we have no other questions, we have a motion to suspend and call. Second, Mr. Mast.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
And Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Mast. Second, Mr. Engel.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
And Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
With that, this ordinance is adopted.
Second reading by caption only, an ordinance naming a portion of the designated right-of-way as Bob Esta Way.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very similar exercise to the last bill. except that we're just naming a portion of the street that hasn't been named before. It's a bit of a legal fiction in that which way? This way is North Clinton Street. Oh, there we go. And this way, this is private, and all this is private as well. But we realized we don't have any name for this cross street. And the reason it's relevant is that for our safety services, when there are crashes or unfortunately a lot of times shoplifter runaways, they don't have a way to identify, a uniform way to identify the intersection. This would afford them that. It would help with our stats, with engineering division, and the idea was to name that in honor of the late Robert Essel, Bob Essel.
Do we have any questions for Mr. O'Donnell? Mr. Mast?
This doesn't change anything for the addresses of the businesses along those
Correct.
private drives?
Good
They'll
question.
still be-
I meant to make that point.
So this is basically just an identifier.
Just something to put in the reports.
Mr. Engel?
No other questions, motion to suspend and call.
If there's no other questions, we have a motion to suspend and call. Second, Mr. Waxler?
Mr. Rusty,
Yes.
Mr. Mass,
Yes.
Mr. Waxler,
Yes.
Mr. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Corbett,
Yes.
and Mr. Hancock.
Yes.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Corbett. Second, Mr. Waxler?
Mr. Mass,
Yes.
Mr. Waxler,
Yes.
Mr. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Corbett, Mr. Hancock,
Yes.
and Mr. Rusty.
Yes.
With that, this ordinance is adopted.
Second reading by caption only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to apply for a nature work grant from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources and declare an emergency.
Mr. Mack?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. As I explained to council last week, this year at budget season, you will likely see our city planner, Nikki Warnicki's hard work in trying to get a little remodel into Veterans Park at Laddie's Grove. As with most of the things that she does and willing to do, they're trying to roll as many grants as possible into it to offset the costs, to try to keep the general fund whole. So this is really just us asking your permission to apply for this grant. Nature Works through ODNR. This particular one is for a $57,000 portion of the project. I know you've seen in a lot of the parks, we've redone the shelter houses. They've got really nice new vibrant picnic tables. They've got new cement work done. So that portion of this project, again, estimated around $57,000. This Nature Work grant is for 19 to cover just a portion of that. But we're going to continue to roll as many grants as possible to save the general fund on this. So again, long explanation, just looking for your permission to apply for this grant.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Mack?
No further questions, motion to suspend and call.
Motion to suspend and call, Mr. Mass? Second, Mr. Waxler?
Mr. Waxler,
Yes.
Mr. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Corbett, Mr. Hancock,
Yes.
Mr. Rusty,
Yes.
and Mr. Mass.
Yes.
Motion done.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Engel?
Second.
Second, Mr. Hancock?
Mr. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Corbett,
Yes.
Mr. Hancock,
Yes.
Mr. Rusty,
Yes.
Mr. Mass,
Yes.
and Mr. Waxler.
Yes.
With that, this ordinance is also adopted.
First reading by caption only, an ordinance approving a final development plan for the property located at 1850 North Clinton Street.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Yes, so this is the final step for this project in the planned unit development approval process. We're not allowed to call it PUDs anymore. The council, as you know, held the public hearing last week with the developer and the project engineer, both of whom were present. And the developer informed council that he would, was very, very generous, very gracious of him.
I don't have a map.
You don't have the map, okay.
No.
I'll sit back down there, shame.
Sorry.
That he would quit claim some of the property where there are encroachments, where people build the sheds and the basketball hoops to the adjoining property owners. And he didn't have to do that, and I didn't even know he was gonna do that, but he just got up there and announced it. And then we also talked about some of the screening with the adjoining homeowners, the Wooded Acre subdivision, just to afford them some additional privacy, and the road, which was Valley Forge Drive, would be gated and only be accessible for safety and emergency services. And I think those were the three main questions that council had. So all the phases of the development plan are on the map that we don't have for you tonight. But approval means the developer may only use the property in accordance with the uses, densities, and conditions of the development plan. I would note, because people have shown up to various public meetings and made threats that, what I would deem threats that should council pass this bill, the project is still subject to all your health, your sanitary, your stormwater, and your environmental regulations. This is just for approving this plan for the density and use of this property. That's what you're voting on tonight.
Do we have any questions for Mr. O'Donnell?
No further question, motion to suspend and call.
Motion to suspend and call, Mr. Waxler. Second, Mr. Corbett.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
Mr. Mast?
Yes.
And Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Mast.
Second.
Second, Mr. Hancock.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
Mr. Mast?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
And Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
With that, this ordinance is also adopted. Now, I've instructed Ms. Elder to keep her ear open in case something does come up, some items of legislation for next week. We're not looking for a reason not to meet, but if there's nothing to address, well, then we may not meet next week.
Do we need a motion ring for that, John, or not?
It's the prerogative of the council president. I could probably dream up of some executive sessions or dying to show up to.
Get together.
I instructed Ms. Elder, keep her ear open just in case something comes up. A lot can happen between now and Thursday.
Sure.
But she'll let me know. Of course. But do we have any citizens' concerns or anything that was shared with council to discuss before we adjourn for the evening?
Otherwise, we would be meeting on
The
27th.
The 28th?
Today's third,
Oh,
yes.
17th, 24th.
24th.
Okay.
Yeah, in which case,
Tested my math tonight, sir.
Doing well. You're doing
I
well.
even told myself, pull up the calendar. The next meeting would be on the 24th. Yes?
The Arabella Street Festival is going on this weekend, and there's a lot of other weekend activities as well, so, and the weather's been great. So, I recommend to be out.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? Mr. Rainey. All those in favor of adjourning for this evening, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, we are adjourned, at least for this evening.
Kirsty, thanks for the fan.
Sorry, Sean, about the map.
Oh. Oh, it passed, right on.
Yeah. I have the map because we had to